If you've been thinking, I feel like I'm already behind. I should have started this years ago. Maybe I missed my chance. I don't even know if it's worth trying now. This is for you because you're not too late. You're just not started yet. And I know that probably sounds simple, maybe even too simple. But for a lot of people in midlife, the single belief quietly controls everything. It keeps people stuck in jobs they hate, keeps people sitting on ideas they've had for years. It keeps people watching other people build that life they wish they had. Not because they can't do it, and not because they're incapable, not because they're even too old, really, but because they believe the moment already passed. And once you believe that, you stop moving. So in this video, I want to help you see something very clearly. You're not behind because of your age, because fear convinced you not to begin. And that can change starting today. This shows up a lot in midlife, really, because by this stage of life, you've already lived enough years to compare yourself constantly. You look around and see people already doing what you're considering. People who started businesses years ago, people building audiences online, people making money in ways you're only beginning to understand, people who seem confident, established, certain, and then your brain starts doing what it always does. You should have done this earlier. You wasted too much time. Other people are already ahead. What's the point doing it now? Then, little by little, you begin taking yourself away. You begin talking yourself out of it, um, really detaching from your own future, but not dramatically. It happens quietly. You start to hesitate, you delay, you think about it, you research endlessly, you wait for certainty. You tell yourself you'll start once you feel ready. But the truth is, most people never feel ready, especially when they're starting something meaningful. And what makes this even harder in midlife is that you're carrying history now. Think about it. You've had disappointments, you've made mistakes, false starts, you have regrets, maybe financial pressure, maybe responsibilities, maybe years spent putting everyone else first. So when you think about starting something new, it doesn't feel very exciting at first. It actually feels very risky because now the stakes feel much bigger. You're not 20 anymore. When people expect you to be figuring life out like you would when you're 20, at this stage, it feels more like you're supposed to already know everything, right? But here's what nobody talks about. A huge number of people midlife are secretly start over. They're starting over emotionally, mentally, financially, professionally. I know it sounds interesting. A lot of people do that, but they just don't say it out loud. See, some people look successful but feel completely lost. Some built careers that they no longer want. Some spent decades surviving instead of living. Some woke up one day realizing, I don't actually want the life I built. And that realization can either destroy you or wake you up. And that's the goal, for it to wake you up. But here's the truth: you're not behind in time, you're behind in starting. And those are not the same thing, because the timeline only begins when you move. Think about that. If you never start, then of course nothing changes. But the moment you begin, even imperfectly, the clock changes. Progress starts, momentum starts, growth starts, confidence starts. See, most people think confidence comes first. It doesn't. Movement comes first. Confidence is usually the result of surviving what you thought you couldn't do. And this is where people get trapped. They think, if I had started 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, but you didn't. And spending the next 10 years regretting the previous 10 years is only going to guarantee you one thing: you'll still be stuck another decade from now. The past is not your opportunity anymore. Today is your opportunity. And people you admire, most of them didn't start as early as you think. A lot of successful people reinvented themselves later in life. Many started businesses in their 40s, 50s, 60s. Many had no clue what they were doing in the beginning, no clue. But they moved anyway. That's the difference. Not talent, not perfect timing, not luck, movement. Because action creates opportunities that thinking will never create. You could think 24/7. It's never going to take you to a place of opportunities until you take action. Think about this. Imagine two people sit in the exact same position today. Same age, same fears, same doubts, same feeling of being behind. The first person decides, I'm going to start small. Maybe I'm going to spend 30 minutes a day learning. Maybe they post their first video. Maybe they start a blog. I've been there. Maybe they build a side income. Maybe they finally work on that one thing that they've been avoiding for years. Nothing massive happens overnight, but 6 months later, they've obviously grown. They understand more, they're more confident, they've built momentum, they've become somebody different. Now imagine the second person. They wait, overthink, they hesitate. They keep saying, maybe next month, maybe when life settles down, maybe when I know more. A year passes and they're still standing in the exact same place. That's the painful part about hesitation. Time passes either way. The year is going to move forward, whether you act or not. The question is, will you move with it? Because the year from now, you can either have progress or have another year of regret. See, and the real issue usually isn't timing, it's hesitation. Hesitation, it's disguised as timing. I'm too late sounds like a fact, but most of the time, it's fear wearing a disguise. Because saying I'm too late feels safer than saying I'm scared to fail. It feels safer than saying, what if I try and it doesn't work? So the mind creates a more comfortable excuse: timing, age, market, the economy, the algorithm can't figure out, other people being ahead. But let me ask you something. If someone else can still start today, why can't you? Because the opportunity isn't gone. You just haven't entered the game yet. And yes, starting later means your path may look different, but different doesn't mean impossible. You don't need to catch up to everyone. You only need to stop abandoning yourself. That is it. Because comparison destroys momentum. There will always be someone that's ahead of you. But there are also millions of people who will never begin at all. And if you start now, you immediately separate yourself from the people who only dream and don't take action. So instead of asking, am I too late? Ask this instead. What happens if I don't start now? What does your life look like in 5 years if nothing changes? What happens if you keep waiting? What happens if fear keeps deciding your future? Because the answer is usually much clearer. Most people are not suffering because they failed. They're suffering because they never gave themselves permission to try. And that regret weighs so much heavier than the effort ever will. You can survive awkward beginnings. You can survive making mistakes. You can survive slow progress. Heck, you can even survive failure if it comes to that. But it's much harder to live with the feeling that you abandoned your own potential. So here's what I want you to do. Start small. Start imperfect. Start before you feel ready. Stop trying to see the entire path before taking that first step. You don't need a perfect plan to be moving. You need willingness. That's it. It's not complicated. One video, make one post, develop one skill, have one conversation, one application, 1 hour a day, one small decision repeated consistently. That's how lives change. Not through one giant breakthrough. It's rarely ever that, but through small actions that eventually become a different identity. The only way to stop feeling behind is to begin. So understand this. You're not late. You're early if you start now. Because the moment you begin, your future finally has something new to work with. And maybe nobody told you this before, but you're allowed to reinvent yourself. You're allowed to start over. You're allowed to build something meaningful at this stage of your life. And you don't need permission from anyone else to begin. No one else. The only thing that truly makes it too late is never starting at all. So don't focus on where you could have been. Focus on where you could be a year from now if you finally move today. That's the opportunity sitting in front of you right now. So if you know something needs to change, but you're still feeling stuck, start with this free 15-minute reset that I have in the description below. The link is there. It'll help you clear the mental noise and figure out what direction actually makes sense for you right now. It's free. And if you're ready for deeper clarity around your next chapter, book a clarity call with me. That's below as well. You don't need your whole future figured out today. You just need to stop standing still. And before you go, watch last week's video, why you keep hesitating, even when you know better. Because once you understand what's really causing the hesitation, it becomes much easier to finally move forward. Until next week, take care.